All right, let's talk about the Kevin Hart Roast and really the return of the roast. Ostensibly, comedians have successfully taken back free speech here, so they're excited about that. Kevin Hart is crowing about it. Comedians say it is our job to push envelopes, challenge tropes, cross boundaries, stretch comfort zones. No, it is your job to be funny. That's it. It's in the job title right there. That's it. And I say always, pretty much, funny trumps everything. You cannot in one breath laugh and then pretend to be offended. If you laugh, you take your right to be offended away. Kevin was himself very pleased with his roast. You know, he'll tell you it is because comics have taken back their birthright. They did their job. They took back the rights that were stolen from them in the woke era. I will tell you, really from his perspective, it's really mostly that it was a night dedicated with full attention on him, okay? He used to be a humble guy when he was coming up. He is not. Look at this. Look at the arrogance and the glow from his beds, his post from bed the morning after the roast. Just look at this.
That, my friend, is what the fucking roast is supposed to be. It's goddamn hard-hitting, relentless jokes with no consequence. It's the concept of a roast. You go hard or you go home. No emotion, no fucking feelings, man. It's not what a roast is about. Leave the emotions and the feelings at the front fucking door. People are coming in and they're looking for the shock factor. They're looking for the crazy reaction about the hard-hitting joke. Let them fly. It's all in the efforts of being funny. It's that simple.
Yeah, see, he's not smart enough to actually make a decent... Take it.
You ain't seen it, go see it.
He's not smart enough to actually make a good point. That's what this is for. Hard-hitting jokes. So what is it for? Is it to, expand our cultural tolerance? Is it to, just articulate it a little more as to what it is? I'm not saying I'm offended by it. I'm not. I don't care what no jokes, nobody's speech threatens me. You know what I mean? I don't care if it's on the political front, if it's Tucker Carlson, or if it's, Kevin Hart or Shane Gillis or anybody. But what is the point? And he does not have the ability to explain what we're gaining here. I'm all for free speech, but how are you making society better here? Or is this just really about you and your ego and sitting in a room while people are saying wild and crazy things because it really all just elevates you as. And Kevin, I did Real Husbands of Hollywood. I was on an episode with him years ago. We had a fight scene on the set of Access Hollywood, and it was awesome. He was so great. He came in, he was humble, he was on his way up. He wasn't the giant, or as Michael Che said, the most significant high-profile comic of the last 10 years. Certainly black comic of the last 10 years. And, I think the humble has gone out the window with him. More on that in a second. But look, the jokes were rough. They were rough. They were rougher than they were with Tom Brady. Tom Brady, the roughest it got was on his personal life and his marriage falling apart, and his wife. Kevin made a joke about his wife allegedly having an affair with the jiu-jitsu instructor, with whom she has a lovely family now. But Tony Hinchcliffe told a George Floyd joke that was, people think, some over the line.
You've done good, though, Kevin. The black community is so proud of you right now. George Floyd is looking up at us all, laughing so hard that he can't breathe.
Yeah, see, that's not funny to me. So, no, it just isn't funny. By the way, he stumbled over the punchline, making me think that he wasn't so sure about it himself. Right? He stumbled there as he was delivering the punchline. Some viewers, and more importantly, the family of George Floyd, were offended. I'm offended at how unfunny it was. If you're going to go there, this is all about risk and reward. It's all about the capital you build and where you decide to spend it. Tony Hinchcliffe is a comedian's comedian. He's not well known by everyone. Kevin Hart is. Also, a little surprising, Dwayne Johnson, who is not a comedian and has a family-friendly persona. He gets up there and uses the R word. And R, not rock. Okay? The R word, talking about Draymond Green. A bit of a surprise from him, for sure, right? And of course, disability advocates express that they are upset. You're undoing the work that we've done. Although I would recommend, didn't Donald Trump use that word when he was talking about Tim Walz in Minneapolis? It's so funny that we're talking about comedians and the deeply offensive things they say. The most offensive guy in the world is the president of the United States. And somehow he just gets a pass. We can, let's just use that for perspective. But the MC of the night was Shane Gillis. There is no comedian, I think, bigger right now than Shane Gillis. He allegedly suffered over, about 3 weeks over this joke that he told about, I won't even say it directly, but Kevin Hart being so short that, back in the day, if it were back in the time of slavery, they'd have to find a smaller tree in which to, punish him from. The way he says it, he has a funny delivery. This is one of those where if you're going to laugh, you're looking over your shoulder. If you're alone in the room, to each his own, you are left with your own, is that helpful? Is that actually bringing black people and white people together? Because there are many. Look, I understand the argument. People say, if we constantly let racist boundaries or breathe life into them, we'll just always have racism. How do we end? How do we get to colorblind? There will be comedians that say that Shane Gillis did that, and one of them will be Kevin Hart. He's not going to go and say he was offended by that. No one in the room did. I don't see anyone bailing on anybody else, right? I don't see any turncoats here oh, I can't believe he said what he said. Michael Che was offended. Michael Che from Saturday Night Live. He was offended by the fact that it was mostly white guys in the writer's room at a black guy's roast. Well, again, that's drawing a racist boundary himself, right? He says black people joke different. Black guy roasts look at this dude's shoes. A white roasts are slavery, math, slain teens, sex crimes, slurs, family secrets. White guys don't give a shit about shoes. And then Michael pointed out that the top main 5 writers, Shane Gillis mostly is the guy that brings in the writers when you're the MC. They're all white guys. There they are. Look at these guys. Writers are definitely a different breed. They look like is that Drew Carey in the middle? Is he now or right? Looks like Drew Carey right in the middle. Yeah, they look like they spend a lot of time in a writer's room. Can you do this on treadmills? Line up across from each, go for a walk and tell jokes together? I always do my best, thinking when I am on the move. Anyway, for Shane, no problem with the Epstein jokes. They came a lot easier. He aimed a few of those at Chelsea Handler for attending a dinner at Epstein's house with Katie Couric years ago, where Charlie Rose was in attendance and Woody Allen and his wife. Just as we came, you wouldn't know it then, but then later in life, we're this is the shadiest dinner ever. Chelsea got out of that one. Pete Davidson told a Charlie Kirk joke. It was about Tony Hinchcliffe. Again, a comedian I've never really actually listened to or heard or studied. He said, Tony reminds me of Charlie. I can't even say it. It's so, and you know what? Is it? I don't know. I didn't hear him say it, but is it funny? Is it too soon? It has to do with Charlie, getting killed. It has to reference to, being shot in the throat. And he made it a sex joke about Tony Hinchcliffe and his throat and what goes down it, if you know what I'm saying. No one's going to be punished from this. So maybe the comedians are winning in the end because cancel culture never dies. It hasn't died. It still has its supporters. It's waiting for its time to come back. Everything is cyclical. It wants to come back. Wokeism and cancel culture may be quiet, but definitely not dead. What's interesting to me, if you want some outrage, is Netflix edited out some Melania jokes reportedly, right? Fear of the Trump backlash. Is anyone else tired of big tech companies being fearful of the president and his retaliation? Talk about, it's not a squelching of free speech, but it's a self-squelching out of fear of what might happen if you express too much free speech that affects him. That's a scarier precedent. Maybe some people want to talk about that. So what did you think? What are your thoughts? Calm down. That's what roasts are meant to be. Are you in the Kevin Hart camp? They're meant to offend, or look, is this legitimately outrageous shock humor with an actual punchline? It's just, accomplishing nothing culturally or anything else. Just punching down. Sunshine, Mitch says, doesn't offend me. It's comedy. It's what it is. Not time to be sensitive. Reprimanda, hearing non-comedians make nasty jokes, I think tarnishes their image like it's TMI in a way. Well, somebody like The Rock coming out and using the R word, it's like, whoa! Shane Gillis, the dude was fired after, soon after he was hired at SNL because they found something he said about Asian people on a podcast a year before, and they canceled him in his new job. That guy has antibodies, okay? I always say that I have antibodies in a different way, but not that different. He's got cancellation antibodies. I think I have some too, like you're not doing me twice. But, okay, here's a commenter. Blind321 says, literally, I hate it. It's not hilarious enough for how offensive it is. It's lazy writing, and there are no layers because they see us, the audience, as one-dimensional. It's never a comment on society. It's always one punching down. I noticed there were no jokes about this. Are we sure Kevin Hart didn't approve the material and edit some things out himself? Racism, okay, but don't touch the collapse of my media company, my empire. The New York Post just addressed this. He's got a business debacle. That's his company, Heartbeat. He's been MIA from Heartbeat Media and The Office for weeks at a time, left some anxious employees to navigate layoffs, cancel meetings. These are the headlines that are coming out now. Kevin Hart went MIA, changed phone number after layoffs at his struggling media company. Kevin Hart's business empire is not funny AF. Behind the scenes, as CEO, Kevin reportedly never showed up to his $650 million company for weeks at a time. I didn't see any jokes about this. This has been, going on for a long time. He refused to show up. He also changed his phone number, as you saw, in the wake of brutal job cuts that wiped out like a quarter of the workforce at Heartbeat. Kevin resumed his role as CEO in January 2025. I'm a CEO. Some people are not. You're not a CEO. You just want to sit in the big chair because the ego is unbelievable on this formerly humble guy. He took over the CEO role after several executives departed, and he vowed to unveil a strategy to steady the sinking ship. Instead, according to Bloomberg News, he largely vanished from day-to-day operations and delegated control to a couple of longtime lieutenants, Jeff Flanagan and the CFO, Eric Stoneburner. Heartbeat Media's operations suffered as Staff meetings were scrapped. All development of new movies and TV projects were slowed down dramatically. Podcast initiatives that were pitched internally never got off the ground. That happens everywhere. Heartbeat's turmoil led to waves of layoffs. Days before Thanksgiving, 20 people fired out of the roughly 80 that worked there, all according to Bloomberg. The company later cuts additional workers tied to the podcasting, the scripted TV, executives involved with a barbershop TV adaptation for Amazon, second season of the animated series Little Kev. And then following one round of layoffs, executives got together on a Zoom meeting with employees to talk about this stuff, and Kevin remained off camera until it was time for him to speak very briefly about the restructuring. I will be taking over as CEO. Before ending the meeting without taking any questions from people. And in the weeks after that, Kevin changed his phone number, according to Bloomberg. Reported that advisors had long encouraged him to make himself less accessible. Yeah, company had once been positioned as the next big celebrity-backed media empire during the Hollywood streaming boom. Kevin merged his production company with a digital comedy brand called Laugh Out Loud in 2022, sold a 15% stake to a private equity firm. His company, Heartbeat, was valued at roughly $650 million. The business built around, everything in production: TV, film, short form, digital video, podcast, you name it. He had huge partnerships that he put together. You've seen him. His commercials are literally everywhere. Procter & Gamble, Lyft. By the way, during his expansion here, when he gave him this massive valuation, which we see all the time, he moved into Oprah Winfrey's 40,000 square foot West Hollywood office space that she left. Kevin reportedly outfitted the headquarters with fancy artwork, luxury furnishings, works by prominent African artists, high-end designer desks in his personal office suite for the occasion that he went in there. It all fizzled. The ambitions kind of slowly collapsed. Some people realize you just perform. So celebrities, one thing they have in common is they all want to be extraordinary. They don't want to just be people that memorize lines and repeat it back on a camera or just make people laugh. They want to be seen as founders, as business people, and you know what? There are different types of intelligence. God blessed you with quick timing and a sense of humor, and one that can make a lot of money. But you got to know your lane, right? So the company shutters its New York office. Executives pushed Kevin to scale back his business. And instead, tensions kind of intensify there. And it just becomes a giant sort of a shit show, okay? And now, these people don't know what to do. Some employees reportedly, are in a panic. So, I don't see that. I don't see any of those jokes being told, and I wonder, was that on purpose? I like to say, I'm just here to be roasted. I'm not gonna get involved. Seems that Tom Brady did not get involved in his roast because they went after, his wife allegedly hooking up with the jiu-jitsu instructor before they had split. And I remember Tom was pissed about all that. I seem to have gotten over it because he participated too.